Hello, everyone. Welcome. We'll start in a couple of minutes while we get people in. Thank you for joining. Okay, so I think that since we are at time and I see that many people have already joined, I say we make a start. Welcome everyone to this Crossref webinar on open funding metadata, where we will be exploring the role of research funders in contributing to the research nexus. And we will also be covering how funding metadata can be a powerful tool to turn data into real insights. So thank you very much for joining, and so let's get started. First of all, just a quick word on our code of conduct. We want all our meetings to be safe, respectful, and productive for everyone. So we ask that you be mindful of our code of conduct. The link is on the slide, and a colleague will be sharing the link in the chat as well. I just wanted to highlight one of the latest points that were added to the code, and that is that Crossref does not allow the use of AI assistant in our meetings. So we will be removing any AI assistant that join the meeting today. If you have a complaint about someone's conduct or during the meeting, or you have any questions or concerns about the code of conduct, please feel free to contact any of Crossref colleagues here directly today, or you can also send us an email to conduct@crossref.org. Some notes about Zoom. Please use the chat to introduce yourself, share your name and where you're joining us from today so we get to know each other a bit better. For questions, we will really appreciate if you can use the Q&A function box at the bottom of your screen to get your questions answered during the session. This is really helpful for us because it helps us keep track and give us the ability to make sure that we get to all of your questions and that we can share answers to those that we are not able to answer live today. So if you can concentrate your questions in the Q&A box, that will be great. Thank you. This session will be recorded and we will be sharing the recording afterwards. So I'm here today. I'm here today. My name is Rocío Gaudioso. I am Community Engagement Manager, and I'm joining from Sevilla, Spain. And I let my colleagues to introduce themselves.
Hello, my name is Nova. I am a member support specialist here at Crossreff, and I am joining from Indonesia.
Hi, I'm Caitlin. I'm also a member support specialist at Crossreff, and I'm joining you from the Philippines.
Hello, same as Kathleen and Nova from Member Support Specialist. I'm joining from Tokyo. Welcome.
Thank you very much. This is the agenda for today. We will be covering what's funding metadata, what infrastructure is available in Crossref to share and reuse open funding metadata, which is the grant linking system, and then we'll just touch upon some of the latest work of the Barcelona Declaration as well. As you may already know, Crossref is a not-for-profit membership organization that exists to make scholarly communications better. We make research objects easy to find, cite, link, and access. And we envision a rich and reusable open network of relationship that connects research organizations, people, things, and actions. A scholarly record that the global community can build on forever for the benefit of society. And we do this together with our members. Crossref has now 25,000 organizational members from 167 different countries. So there has been quite a lot of growth in recent years. 51% of those members are based in Asia, and we keep seeing a steady increase among our Asian community. 40% of those members don't actually consider themselves to be publishers. They consider themselves to be universities or scholarly-led publishers. And 6% of our members are based in GEM-eligible countries. More on that later. We're very lucky to be supported by 140 sponsoring organizations and 42 ambassadors, and we are very grateful for all the support they provide in engaging with our communities regionally. We've currently got 183 million of metadata records, of which more than 200,000 are grant records, with DOIs that are resolved 1.4 billion times per month, which is actually around 93% of all DOI resolutions. And we also support 2.1 billion queries of our metadata each month by hundreds of thousands of systems that ingest and reuse this metadata. So Crossref members span the wide variety of the research and scholarly community, from publishers, funders, universities, repositories, and data centers. And many of our members are more than one thing at the same time. Our members contribute rich metadata records that are open to use and reuse by thousands of systems, such as Publish Vendor, peer review system, reference manager, educational tools, and many more. Together with our members, we work towards our shared vision of the Research Nexus. The Research Nexus is our vision of a rich and reusable open network of relationship that connect research organizations, people, things, and actions. The foundation of this network is metadata. The research and more comprehensive the metadata in Crossref record is, the more value there is for our members and for others, including for future generations. Rich metadata records allow the research community to bring together scattered pieces of the scholarly record and shed lights to the relationship between objects beyond just PIDs. But what is metadata in this context? So when we talk about Crossref metadata, we talk about data about data. It is a structure and it's the description of research entities. Crossref metadata is always open. So this rich description of the research ecosystem enables discoverability, reproducibility, assessment and reporting, and funding transparency. And very importantly, it allows links between objects and content. If we go into funding metadata more specifically, we can talk about information about the funder, about the award, and about the relationships between funding and related objects. We can also differentiate between funding metadata registered by publishers, so to add funding context to the research output they are publishing, or funding metadata registered by funders to identify and describe funding activities through metadata and permanent identifiers. They are both an essential part of the knowledge network, and they help contextualize works and outputs and understand funding flows. But in today's webinar, we'll be focusing on funding metadata from the perspective of research funders. So while the scholarly community had long been creating links between articles and other objects, and people and institutions, the award, the funding, was not captured in a consistent way across the community. So researchers and publishers had to acknowledge funders by name and award using internal award numbers. But there was not a persistent way to link awards with any other kind of objects. To fill that gap, Crossref introduced grant DOIs in 2019 after extensive community consultation. So by registering their awards using Crossref grant linking system, funder can ensure that authors and publishers can not only identify the funder, but the specific award that made the publication possible. Before that moment, that time, the author had to use funder name and award number, if it was even available, to acknowledge funding, which is prone to errors. A Crossref Grant UI provides a way to globally identify an award in a unique way, and this allows links between grants, people, institutions, and research outputs. And it also forms an interconnected network that is powered by metadata and permanent identifiers that supports impact tracking, reporting, and research assessment. So before grant UIs, the only way that we had to permanently link output to funders were using PIDs for funders. So a funder ID or a ROR ID identify a funder, but it doesn't say anything about the award that made an output possible. So for example, here, we know that this work was funded by BRIN because we can find the funder ID and the metadata. But we don't know who was the grant holder, who out of all of those authors was the grant holder. What was the funding program, the award date, titles, how many other outputs did the same award support? A Crossref Grant UI adds a layer of vital information to the funding acknowledgement that just identifying funding organizations do not allow to do. And we do that, and that's possible thanks to the metadata. Crossref grant metadata schema was developed in consultation with funders. Some metadata elements are mandatory, others are optional, but like with any other record type, we encourage you to submit as much high-quality metadata as possible. Elements include title, description of the project, investigators, investigator names, investigators' roles, dates, ROR IDs for affiliation, ORCID IDs for investigators. You can also describe the funding amount, funding percentage, the currency, and dates of the award start date and end date. So it can be very, very descriptive. You can get very descriptive with the metadata. Very importantly, also funding types. There is a variety of funding types that you can choose from to identify and describe the award. So this allows for a very specific description of the award, and it facilitates portfolio analysis and planning, as well as impact tracking based on funding types. Crossref grant metadata schema is not set in stone or static, so it's a living thing that changes and evolves as the community let us know what's needed for it to continue being fit for purpose. So we always welcome feedback and comments about the schema to make it better for the community. To continue our efforts to improve funding metadata at scale across the ecosystem and to close the gap between funders registering Crossref grant UIs and community members including the grant UI in their metadata record, we recently supported grant UIs as a metadata element earlier this year. So this means that now members can include Crossref grant UIs to identify funding in their record in their own metadata element. So the relationship created between the grant and the work is reciprocal. So if a member signals that an output was funded by a grant UI, we will assert that relationship in the grant UI metadata record as well. And this is what it looks like in the metadata. Here we can see the metadata record of an output on the left of the screen. In this case from eLife, where a set of relationships between objects are clearly stated in the metadata. So we can see how the output relates to a preprint, that it has related reviews, and also the funding that made it possible, linked through the Crossref grant UI of the grant. On the right-hand side, we can see that same Crossref grant metadata record, where we can see the relationship between the grant and the output. So that relationship, the fact that that grant was supported the development of that research output, is clearly stated in both metadata record through the is financed by relationship. Crossref grant linking system also benefits from the scale of Crossref community and metadata corpus. Crossref metadata is distributed across thousands of platforms and tools, and funding metadata, open funding metadata that is registered with Crossref is distributed the same way. Grants registered with Crossref also join more than 183 million metadata records, opening the opportunity to assert relationships with related research objects, peoples, and places. But it also, very importantly, it also means that those grant records will benefit from Crossref metadata matching projects, where Crossref enriches records to highlight relationships between objects. Metadata matching discovers missing relationship between entities across the scholarly record. So in many cases, these relationships are included in the metadata records, but in others, we can carry out automated matching processes to identify the related entity. And one of those matching processes is the grant output matching. And this is what we are seeing here. So as I said, Crossref grant device have mutual relationship with works, and we are able to match grant metadata with outputs to uncover these relationships. So in this graph, what we're seeing in the red line shows the number of grants registered by our funder members, and the blue line are relationships between those grants and research outputs. In 2025, we could match, we could uncover more than 250,000 funding relationships between grants and outputs. These relationships make impact tracking, intelligence gathering, and portfolio analysis easier for funders as it uncovers all the relationship between the funding that they are awarding and the research outputs that are coming out of that same funding. It facilitates reporting as well. It's easier for grantees to show impact, for example. It also facilitates the tracking of open science and open access policies compliance, which is important for some funders. Crossref works with a number of funders around the world to make their funding metadata open and interoperable. Crossref funder members span from philanthropic funders to big public funding bodies. And collectively, they have registered more than 200,000 grant metadata records, which is a milestone that we recently reached, that are now part of the scholarly record and that can be cited, traced, and linked to other entities. And with this, I'd like to hand over to my colleague Nova, who will cover some important details from the membership side of things. So thank you. Nova, over to you.
Thank you. Rocio, could you pass to the next slides? Okay. So there are several programs from Crossref in order to support members who face barriers, especially in language, cost, or capacity. The first one is GEM program. This is our umbrella initiatives to make membership more accessible, especially for organization that comes from like lower resource countries. We waive content registration fees and annual membership fees for members coming from GEM eligible countries. And also, from time to time, we conduct a regular webinar in metadata health checks, and it is multilingual. So it helps members to check and improve their metadata quality, and it is conducted in their own language, not only English. We are also partnering with PKP. Basically, we have plugins built with PKP OJS platform, and it is easier for those journals who are using OJS so that they can register their metadata directly from OJS platform. And also we have sponsors program. Sponsors usually offer several supports for members. It can be technical support and also language support. So if some members have difficulties in English, they can join via sponsor, and sponsor will become sort of the mediator from Crossref to the members and can communicate with their local language. And also sponsors aggregates fee so that members can pay in their local currency because Crossref only accept payments in USD. So it is easier for members that has limited capacity to manage technical things directly. And also we have ambassadors program. Our ambassadors are volunteers who extend our reach to the local communities. Usually we have programs such as outreach and trainings for members in many, many countries. Next slide, please. So I will show you on how to register your grants using our metadata manager. Basically, when you go to our metadata manager, you will start with this page. And when you open the link, it will take you this initial page, and then you can sign in using your Crossref account credentials. This can be a user credential that is a personal login for individuals who are responsible for registering metadata, or it can be role credentials, which are a shared login that can be used and shared with multiple colleagues within an organization. So these login credentials, you get them when you were registering as a Crossref member. So please use that to log into our metadata manager. And then from there, you can choose this button to register a new record, the blue one at the top, or you can edit the existing one, or you can also upload a JSON file of a previously downloaded records. So this is our metadata manager. Next, please. And after you select add new record button, you will be directed to this page where you can enter all the details of your record. In this record submission type field, there are several options of the content types that you can choose. In this case, please choose grant. And then after that, you can assign all the details, all the metadata elements. First thing first, you need to input your DOI and assign a DOI to the grant, and also input the URL in which the DOI will resolve to. And then you will need to input the grant's metadata elements such as award number, start date, and funding details. And please note that our metadata manager currently does not support ROR IDs, so you will need to include funder ID only if you are using metadata manager. Also, relationship metadata is not currently supported in metadata manager. For example, if you wanted to link a grant record to the publication that it's funded, it is not currently possible using this tool. However, you can use another tool that we have, which is by depositing your XML file directly to us. But of course, it requires some knowledge about XML. So just choose the tool that you're more comfortable using. Next slide, please. There are several steps that you have to follow to register your grants with us. First is you can join Crossref as a member, but if you are already a member, you don't need another new member account to register grants, so you can just register the grants directly. And then after that, you can register your grants and share the ID with the awardee. And the awardee passes the grant ID to publisher during submission, and publisher gets Crossref grant metadata and matches to the output, and then publisher adds grant ID to Crossref metadata record, and funders and others can search for all outputs related to the grant. It is using our REST API. And what do you need when you want to register your grants? In the next slide. So there are three main steps for getting started as a funder in Crossref, but this doesn't apply if you are already a member. First of all, you have to join Crossref as a member. You have to fill in the applications and also agree to our membership terms. And here in the slide, you can click the links to our membership terms and also our fees so that you can learn and also look into the details on the cost and the requirements. But again, if you are already an active member, you don't need another member account just to register your grants. You can just register your grants directly. And then you can register your grants. Each grants will need its own unique landing page and it should follow Crossref's guidelines. So anyone who is clicking to the DOI can go to that page and also know that they are in the right place. And you'll need either an Open Funder Registry ID or Funder ID or Error ID. And you can search this at this website, search.crossref.org/funding, or you can just reach out directly to us and we will help you to find out like which one is your ID or Funder ID. And you'll need either you need to map your internal award type to our Crossref award types so that our metadata will come through consistently. And from there, you can send us your XML metadata if you're registering large volumes because it will allow bulk updates by sending the XML to us. Or you can use a manual form or use metadata manager if you are doing like small batch or just one-off registrations. And finally, you can communicate the DOIs back to your awardee. Researchers often find the need to cite or reference to their own grant IDs, so this step is really, really important. And last but not least, you can use our REST API. Basically, once you start registering grants, you can use our API to retrieve the metadata and also track your reporting and evaluation. Thank you. I'll pass this back to Rocio.
Yeah, so thank you, Nova. I also think that it's important to touch upon grant registration fees, and I see that there are already a couple of questions about fees in the chat. I believe that my colleague has shared a link to current Crossref fees, so that's good. But as you know, apart from membership fees for Crossref, there are registration fees in the case of grants, grant registration fees. If you're registering current grant awards, meaning any award, any grant awarded in 2024, since 2024, that will be $1 dollar per grant. Every time that you register a grant, that would be $1. But if you're registering back year grants, meaning anything awarded in 2023 or before, that grant registration fee is waived during 2026 and 2027. This waiver, it's important because we are really keen in seeing as many historical grant metadata as possible in the research nexus because they are very important data points to fill the gaps between kind of the network. So, and as I said, there is no further membership fee if you already have an active membership for Crossref. So very quickly, and as we've been kind of saying, as Nova introduced as well, funder members can also benefit from Crossref GEM program. GEM program is a program to lower financial barriers for a selected list of countries. There is no membership or registration fees. So registration and membership fees are waived for organizations and funders that are based in any of these countries. Members can be independent members or they can work with a sponsor. There may be some charges for optional services, depending on what the member decides to do. And you can see more at crossref.org/gem. And I think that a colleague will probably share the link in a second. So if you are based in any of these countries and you're a funder, just know that you can benefit from the program and start registering your funding with no membership or registration fees. So just to wrap us up, I wanted to quickly introduce the Barcelona Declaration on Open Research Information in case someone was not familiar with it yet, because I think it's very relevant to what we are talking here today. So the this is, I didn't know that it was animated. The declaration is a global community-driven initiative to make open research information the norm. So organizations that perform, fund, or evaluate research can commit to the commitments and sign the declaration, and supporters such as data or service or infrastructure providers can signal support as well. Crossreff and the Barcelona Declaration now has 147 signatories and 57 supporters across 34 countries. So it's really a global initiative. So the aim of the Barcelona Declaration is to support the transition to open research information at the technical, operational, and strategic level. And this is very important because, as we've been saying during today's session, open metadata enables a transparent, reusable, and reusable evaluation and decision making. So it's important for different actors of the research and scholarly ecosystem. The work of the declaration is organized in working groups. And one of those working groups is about open funding metadata. And the coordination is shared among three funders, NW, FWF, and ANR in Europe. I just wanted to share a couple of outputs from the working group because I think that they might be of interest for this group. The first one is a questionnaire that is currently open for funding organizations. So the aim of the questionnaire is to explore research funders' current practices, priorities, and challenges around open funding metadata. Which are the organizational approaches, any implementation challenges, the use of persistence identifiers, if any, that are kind of happening across kind of funders across the globe. So if you're a part of a research funding organization and are familiar with your organizational approach to sharing funding information openly, please consider answering the questionnaire. It takes around 10 minutes, and it will be really helpful for the working group to have a diverse set of answers. The link is on the slide. And finally, one of the latest outputs of the working group is this call to action that looks at how to improve the overall landscape to maximize the benefit for the community and to identify key barriers. But not only identify the barriers, but propose concrete actions for different actors. So action for publishers, actions for funders, institutions, and infrastructure. I encourage you to have a look at the work of the declaration and this call to action in particular to see if any of the actions and solutions resonate with your organization. And with that, I should do it for today's session. We have plenty of time for questions, so please feel free to use the Q&A box. We'll have a look as well at the chat to see if there are any stray questions there. But in the meantime, if you wish to continue conversation with us, you can find us on LinkedIn, Mastodon, and Blue Sky. But most of all, please join us on the community forum. You can also get in touch with us via email anytime, and perhaps you will consider subscribing to our newsletter, which you can find in the footer of on the website. So with that, do we have any questions? I see that there are a couple of attendees that have been with their hands up during today's session. I don't know if they would like to say something, or that was a mistake. No? Okay, then any questions? I see that there is a question about membership fees. So I think that my colleagues have already shared the fee structure, but just to summarize, for funders, there is one annual membership fee, which depends on the amount of funding that you deliver every year. So depending on the bracket of the bracket that you fall, you will have one membership fee tier or another. And then it's registration fees. Every time that you register a grant, if it's a current grant, is $1. If it's historical grant, it's the registration fees waived until the end of 2027. Okay, so any questions in the okay, see that there is one question in the Q&A. Okay, I see someone asking what is the benefit for universities if the grant is registered with Crossref? So I am understanding that the question is a university is also a funder and they want to register the grant. I hope that's the question. And what's the benefit? So the benefit is twofold, I would say. First, it will support the universities. It will increase the visibility and traceability of universities' funding. Universities are really important funders in the research ecosystem, and sometimes all of that funding activity goes under the radar. So I am making sure that all that funding metadata is openly available, that grantees have a way to cite, to refer back to that funding through a Crossref grant UI with open funding metadata records will increase the visibility of the university and also of the researcher that received the grants. It also helps the university track impact, because that grant that was delivered by the university can be linked to research outputs. So the university will be able to see how many research outputs, what type of research outputs, how diverse those research outputs are. And they can be linked back to people as well through other PIDs, such as ORCID. So that's one, visibility, traceability, and impact tracking. It's also really helpful for universities if they are concerned about openness and funding transparency. So they can really signal transparency and openness through making all of that funding information openly available to all. So those are the main benefits. And many universities are already Crossref members as well. So it's for many of them, it's also a low barrier, like operational to operationalize this. So yeah, so that would be my answer. Can we register all grant that university give to lecturer? Yes, you can register any grant that a university gives any individual. It doesn't have to be financial, so it doesn't have to be monetary. And that's something that I think I forgot to say. Crossref grant metadata schema allows for the description of any type of support that a research funder provides researchers. So yes, it can be financial, it can be a grant, but it can also be support to use facilities or any other kind of type of support for research. So it doesn't have to be monetary, but yeah, no, absolutely. A grant, even if all can be registered with Crossref. We have members that are registering grants back to the 80s because now they can. They have kind of the infrastructure available to do that before they couldn't. So we very much welcome historical data, definitely. I hope that answered the question. So if the university paid lecturer APC for journal, can this be included as well as grant and registered to Crossref? APCs is a type of funding that is supported by the schema. So if this support was provided by the university, it can be registered as an APC type of grant of funding, definitely. Then the researchers could use that grant DOI to acknowledge the APC funding in their publication. Yeah, that's possible. Also BPCs. So APCs, article processing charges, and BPCs, book processing charges. I think that let me maybe show you here. Any other questions? Anything on the chat? If you can have a look, maybe. Here. So these are the funding types that Crossref grant metadata schema supports. As I said, APC is a supported type of funding, and if it's something that the university is providing researchers, it can be registered, and then that grant DOI can be used to acknowledge the funding in publications. But then we also have, as I said, kind of access to facilities, access to equipment, grants, contracts, crowdfunding. So it's very you can get very granular with it. So depending on the type of funding that you're delivering, I think that there is something for everyone. And if we even have like an other category, so if what the type of funding that you're delivering doesn't fit neatly in one of these categories, you can always select other and then just describe the type of funding that you are talking about. I see that under GEM program, what other opportunities will Crossref? Okay, sorry, Robica, you already answered that question. But just for the sake of the recording, an attendee is asking whether under the GEM program, what other opportunities will Crossref provide to countries like Uzbekistan? Are there any sponsorship programs that we join and circulate among our members? Robica very kindly answered that. As a GEM eligible country, you can join us as an independent member or join us under a sponsor. However, a sponsor is able to charge for their services, so it's important to discuss your agreement with your sponsor before joining, and that is a very good point. Thank you, Robica. Okay. Any other questions, please? We have time. So if there are any other questions, please just drop them on the Q&A or the chat. I'm just making sure that I'm not missing any questions. Yes, we will be sharing the recording. Afterwards, you will get the recording via email, but also we upload all our webinars to Crossref YouTube channel, so you can always catch up there as well and share with colleagues. Okay. Well, if there are not any other questions, I think I'll stop sharing and thank my colleagues. Thank you very much for all of your help. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining and for all of your questions. Anything else, you know where to find us. And thank you very much, and have a nice rest of your day. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.